guys want to test those again before we start?
Test. Hello.
Hello? This one works. Hello? Hello?
Hello. Yeah, that works, right? Yeah.
GM. Where should we clip this? It's like just around here?
Yeah, you
best?
can a little bit lower. Yeah,
Lower?
lower's better, yeah. Like my chest, actually.
If it's too close to your mouth, it'll be too hard to hear you.
Yeah, there we go.
See if that works.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No?
I'll just check levels really quick.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Testing?
Go for it, David.
Testing?
I'm sorry for spending data. It was in the cartridge.
All right, welcome everybody. I don't really feel like any of you need the microphone tonight, but we do have people online. Hello, people of Twitch, people of the internet. Thank you all for being here. I just want to give you a brief introduction as to where you're at. So this is Edge. We are a self-custody decentralized exchange platform. We allow users to buy, sell, trade their crypto, all while holding their own keys. So privacy, security is a real big focus of ours. My name is Madison. I do event coordination and marketing here, as well as design. So I love seeing a full house like this. So thank you all for being here. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we do have a help desk downstairs every single Thursday morning. So if you have questions about crypto, you need help onboarding, offboarding, exchanging, whatever, we have real humans, IRL, downstairs at Portal Coffee every single Thursday morning. So yeah, come chat with us on Thursdays, and I will go ahead and pass it off to Chad. Enjoy.
All right, let's get it for Madison real quick. And Edge for hosting us tonight. So no one here has heard of OpenSea, right? Like, right? Okay, cool. Just checking in, just feeling out who we have here in the crowd. But yeah, tonight we're going to have a panel. My name's Chad. I'm the founder of ETH San Diego. A lot of familiar faces, some new ones. Real quick, whose first ETH event is this? Oh, wow. All right. Welcome, guys. We do events. We try to do events bi-weekly. We host a lot of events here at Edge office, and we'll do an assortment of technical events, sort of like fun events, and some networking events. So if you guys want to come to more events, you can check us out at ethsd.org. And then we also post our events on Luma, so lu.ma. That's where you found this event tonight. So tonight we're going to be talking about OpenSea. With me I have Ken, who is a technical recruiter from OpenSea, and David, an engineering lead. So let's give it up for both Ken and David. So you guys, do you guys just want to do some quick intros on who you guys are, how you guys got into the Web3 space, and then we'll move on to OpenSea.
Sure. You want to start it off?
Yeah. So my name's David. I'm an engineering manager at OpenSea. Been here for about a year and a half, or close to a year and a half. And I lead the marketplace team, which is a group focused on 3 core areas, including our developer API, creator tools, and building out all the transactional flows on our core product. OpenSea is my first kind of like job within the crypto and Web3 space. Before this, I was at Stripe. And Postmates before that, and pretty much kind of just took a dive. And so something that I was like kind of interested in, was kind of new to the space. At that point, it was right during the summer of 2021 when NFTs were having a moment. And yeah, one thing led to another, and here I am.
Right on, right on.
Ken, I do technical recruiting at OpenSea, so protocol engineers for David's team, any engineers in the company, front end, back end infrastructure, whatever you need. I got into OpenSea, so I started my journey in OpenSea started as like a personal connection to Devin, just like reaching out to him, trying to work with him on building his team back at the end of 2020. There were like 8 people back then, so we didn't get too much accomplished, but I kind of got in his ear, and then ended up working a lot closer with him in 2021 when NFTs started to pick up steam a little bit. And you know, I had my own agency at that point, so I was working like contract consulting basis. And at the end of 2021 in November, things really started to pick up steam, like, you know, the billions in transaction volume. So we needed more people to work internally. So I decided to join full-time with them. Haven't looked back since. It's been a great time. I got into Web3 back in 2017. A friend of mine, he now like works at Frax. Back then he worked at this company called Everpedia. It's like a Wikipedia built on a blockchain kind of thing. I stayed at his place. I met all of his coworkers and they totally pilled me. And you know, from there on out, I was just all in on ETH and beyond. So.
Awesome, guys. So let's talk a little bit about the mission and vision of OpenSea, right? I think everyone here is familiar with OpenSea. We've all probably traded NFTs, but just from both of you guys, how would you describe the mission that OpenSea is trying to achieve?
Simply, I think, you know, our mission, like our core mission, is to build a technology that enables these new creator economies to thrive. So whether that be, you know, the metaverse, you know, these new trading cards as digital assets, you know, physical assets that can be NFTs, whatever it may be, wherever this crazy NFT world might go, just creating a technology that enables all of those, and then everything that comes along with that. And to do that, you know, we build the most trusted marketplace that people feel safe to transact on and use.
Yeah. Sure. Just to add on to what Ken said, everything there, but we effectively want to create like a marketplace that is accessible to like everyone. So both in terms of like its safety, so people can come and transact knowing that like what they're doing is going to be like a safe transaction, but also ensuring that, you know, we have like the best selection and create like the best experience to be able to like interact as like a secondary marketplace. And more recently also have started to expand into allowing creators to be empowered to come on, create new projects, and have their mint drop on OpenSea as well. So that's like the next evolution of where we're going.
Yeah, I'm just curious, who's minted an NFT at OpenSea? Using OpenSea? Okay, so a good amount of you. Who's actually created a collection, like dropped their own NFT? Okay, cool. So kind of equally distributed. Ken and David, what's it like working at OpenSea? And maybe from different perspectives, right? Because Ken, you're a technical recruiter. You work a lot with onboarding new people or hiring, and then David, you're an engineer, right? So you, you know, manage engineers.
Yeah. If I were to describe it as one word, I'd probably say chaotic. But I mean that in like the best way possible. Both because the space is like so new, so many things are like going on. There's like new tools, new technologies, new competitors popping up like every week, if not like every day. So it's just a really fast-paced like environment to like keep up with. So, you know, at other companies that I've worked at, we tend to have like a pretty long horizon. It would be like multi-quarter, sometimes multi-year in terms of like the roadmaps that we have. But for us, not to be that we're always short-sighted, but like the space just changes so fast. So we want to be like reactive, be able to adapt and be flexible in that. So as a result, I think ends up being, you know, just a little chaotic at times. But like I said, it's kind of part of the process, and also just a factor of like the industry that we're in. And you know, people are coming up with like new use cases. They're using and doing things with NFTs like new every day. So we're also trying to figure out like what use cases are going to stick and what consumers and customers like want with it. So it's just a lot of exploring and experimentation.
Yeah. Real quick before I pass it to Ken, you say like, you know, working at OpenSea is chaotic. Is this true about like the Web3 space in general?
Yeah,
is this a trend?
Yeah, I would probably say so. It's the fact that not only is it in like Web3 and crypto, but like we're also a startup, and startups are just generally a little bit more chaotic, just because like it's kind of a grind and there's a lot of things going on and things can change at any given, you know, moment in time. So I think when you combine both of them together, it ends up being, you know, that much more. But it also keeps things interesting and fun, and that's kind of like why I'm here and probably why Ken's here too.
Yeah, I'd double down on that. It's definitely, an exciting chaos. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I joined, was there's always a new challenge to like face and come up with a new solution to. And you're working with these insanely smart people that are so deep into this space and have these like such cool ideas. It's just really, it's just amazing to be around. Like a lot of us probably like live on Twitter and love to see all these great minds talk, and to actually be in a room with these people and hear them like free flow information about what's going on in this industry and how they're thinking about things. It's sort of like unmatched. Like I couldn't imagine getting this sort of information anywhere else than where I'm at now. Of course, there's probably other Web3 companies with people that are just as smart that could give this info, but yeah, it's just like super exciting, and it's never boring. But the chaos is real, but it keeps it super fun.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think this is kind of a good segue, right? As a recruiter, I kind of want to talk about like what you look for in people, right? You're surrounded by all these smart people, so obviously you have to bring in smart people as well. What does that look like, the hiring process for OpenSea? And do you hire all across the board, from like front end, back end, smart contract engineers? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I hire across the board. It's definitely different, like from profile to profile, team to team, exactly like how I go about looking for someone or what we're looking for. But like for like the protocol team, for example, these are like deep smart contract engineers, and it's to find them. I mean, I have a lot of ways to go about it, but usually what I'm looking at is what they're contributing to open source, what they've built in the past, and sort of like where they're collaborating, what their interests are. That's just like basic, like going out to GitHub, trying to find people. And then in talking to them, it's really about like what they are motivated about. Are they like passionate people, without being like cliche, obviously, but you can really frame it as like, what have you done in your life, in your career? Like, do you really, really want to do this thing, this opportunity that you're applying for, that's presented to you? Like, is this something that you want to be a part of? Like, are you excited to be here? That's like a major part of the hiring process. But advice would be just to like work on things that you really want to work on and what you really want to be a part of. Like if you wanted to work at OpenSea, for example, like get deep into the NFT space, like maybe build on top of Seaport, our marketplace protocol, like really try these things out and show that this is the space that you want to work in. That's one of the best indicators. Beyond that, of course, we look for people that have worked on things that have scaled quickly, people that can be used to this type of environment that we work in. Like you said, it's a little chaotic and changing all the time. People that can adjust to that and adapt. But beyond that, yeah, I mean, just work on cool things and be proud of what you work on.
Yeah, totally. I think the the hiring landscape has changed a lot. I think when I was in school, like resumes still mattered a lot, right? And like cover letters and sort of like trying to like fluff up what you've done. But I think like you said, having a presence or a corpus of work on GitHub or contributions to open source matters a lot. How relevant are resumes these days? And like what advice would you give for engineers looking to apply to these jobs if maybe they haven't contributed to open source yet?
Yeah, resumes are definitely still important because it gives an overview of what you've done, what you've worked on, where you've worked, things like that. Like just really on your resumes, I guess, explain like to the recruiter, whoever's looking at the resume, exactly what types of impacts you've made. Don't be too general about the things you've worked on. Like really describe like what you've done. And if like you're right for the job, it'll be pretty clear by what you've done. If you're not, then it's like it's not right for both sides. Like it's not something that you would probably be comfortable working in anyway. And it's just good to have that clear picture. But I think a conversation with like a recruiter or someone on the team is the best way to really understand like what a person has done and if they're good for the job, or vice versa if we're good for the person.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Let's shift gears a little bit to you, David, and talk about once you're at OpenSea, What's the day-to-day like for an engineer working on the marketplace team? And actually, before you answer that, could you describe a little bit about the different teams you have at OpenSea?
Yeah.
You work on the marketplace, right? But there's also a protocol team and there's other teams, correct?
Yeah. I'll give a high level of all the various engineering and product teams at OpenSea. So marketplace, which I briefly described earlier, we have our protocol team that builds out Seaport, Drop, which is like our new minting contract and registry. So all the protocol related kind of products that we've pushed out, and also a little bit on the integration side into our core app. We have a team focused on trust and safety efforts. So anything from like theft detection, systems where we try to proactively figure out content that's like plagiarized or like duplicating existing collections. And then we have a whole group that's focused on like engineering foundations. So like our platform team focusing on infrastructure, things of that nature. So that covers like a high level, view of our groups. That's not exhaustive by any means, but at least covers a good portion of that. In terms of like day to day, I'd say every day is like a little bit different, but for like an engineer that's on one of the product teams, it's a combination of a few things. One is, most engineers on my team are working on like one core project or focus, either within themselves or in a small group. So a lot of the times it's just like active development on that and just like coding. Outside of that, I think there is some level of like coordination that needs to be done in terms of like collaborating with our PMs and designers. Sometimes there's like cross-functional stakeholders, whether it's like legal for some of the things that we are building, like marketing, even some people on like the ops side. So it's just a lot of cross-functional collaboration, and then outside of that, it's just building out the stuff. We try to keep like our processes fairly like minimal and not too heavy-handed because we do want to be able to like move quickly, but it's just like a fine balance between the two.
Yeah, for sure. What are some like you mentioned like there's a lot of cross-functional like work between different teams, right? What are some like the challenges you could expect to work on at OpenSea as an engineer?
So I think there's probably two main parts. There's like product-related challenges and like technical challenges. On the product-related side, I think a lot of the things that we're building out, there isn't really like a normal pattern that you can follow just because like Web3 is so kind of new. It's not like we're building out just like another streaming platform or like social media app where you can like go look at like existing patterns and kind of just like follow that from a product and design standpoint. Like the concept of like logging in with like a wallet is still like fairly new, especially for people that are like not in the space or like new to Web3. We're trying to build out experiences that like any average person can like come in and figure out how to do that. And that's like pretty challenging when your like user base is a mix between people that know exactly what they're doing and some people that have like no idea that are like trying to come and buy their first NFT. So that's like the product related challenges. On the technical side, I think a lot of it just has to do with like both scale and then like the concepts between like off-chain and on-chain. So we do have a lot of things that we build that are off-chain concepts. We have our own database that stores certain information. That the fact that like there is also like the blockchain and like ingesting information there and keeping things in sync. A lot of like the data patterns there are things that most people have not run into at their other existing jobs. So I think a lot has to do with like scale and like managing the data between like off-chain and on-chain.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to get to scale in just a second. But before we do that, I kind of want to ask you guys what the engineering culture is like, or just the culture in general. We can start with Ken and then go to David.
Yeah, David can definitely speak a lot better on the engineering culture from the insides, better than I can at least. But overall, like the OpenSea culture, it's a very, like, it's open, where, they share everything that we would want to know, that you would expect to know as part of a company. They don't hold back, which I really appreciate. And like I said before, it's a community of really smart people that are very open to helping each other out and teaching each other. Because a lot of people that join OpenSea aren't from Web3 before they join OpenSea. So it's a steep learning curve to just jump into a Web3 company, especially like OpenSea. So it's just like an open, collaborative culture of people that really enjoy what they're working on. And it's cool because we have this product that's really changing the game in a lot of senses. And to be working on something like that, it's hard not to be pretty passionate about what you're working on. So yeah, great culture.
Yeah, real quick before we jump to you, David. A lot of companies like you join and they point you to like a Confluence like database, right? Or like read all these docs to get onboarded, and it's tough, and onboarding sucks at a lot of these companies. Can you just share a little bit about what that's like when you onboard? Do you have like sort of like a mentor at the company that helps you out? Is there like a ramp up period where you're working kind of like on different sides of different things? Would just love to hear a little bit about that.
Do you want to take this
I'll
one?
take this. So as Ken mentioned, the people that join OpenSea, they come from varying backgrounds. Some people know a lot about Web3. They're like active participants and users. Maybe they have bought and sold on OpenSea. And there's some people that come in that are really, really interested in the space, but like are starting more or less from like ground zero. So we actually have a series of like programs that are set up in like your first week to be able to accommodate those that are brand new to the space. So you come in, you set up your own wallet. We have like test environments, and we even give you like a little bit of like ETH to be able to go and like try to buy something or sell something, so you get integrated with the product and get like the core concepts, because we want everyone to have at least some sort of like established baseline. You also normally have like an onboarding buddy that's there to just answer any questions that you may have. It could be about Web3 concepts. It could be about logistical things in the company, but at least someone that's there where you can like go through and like ask all your questions. We have like self-guided kind of like processes as well, where it's like, here's a bunch of things you can go do to try out on the product, and create a collection, mint an item, go list something for sale, or like make an offer. So again, it's just really establishing some sort of like baseline understanding and knowledge, and then from there you start to have like more questions, especially if you're new, and then you really start to figure out like what you don't know, because like not knowing what you don't know in the beginning is like normally like the hardest part, because it just feels like very overwhelming.
Yeah, that's really cool that like coming into the company, like you're actually incentivized to like use the product, right? And you give them real ETH, right? Not testnet ETH.
You can do both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
We
cool.
have like a dog fooding program where it's like if you want to request some ETH to go do test transaction either on mainnet or testnet, both are available. Yeah.
Okay. Really cool.
Yeah.
I'll take the real ETH.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump into scaling, right? So OpenSea grew. Is this thing still on? Yeah. It grew tremendously last year, right? You guys had billions of dollars in volume, and NFTs just blew up in the last bull run. So I think there were probably lots of challenges across the board, from just having to hire a lot more people to scale the product, and then on the engineering side, how to actually scale the infrastructure. So let's start with Ken, and I'd love to hear a bit about how you dealt with that need to scale, and if your recruitment process changed, or how you scaled up your recruitment process, and then we'll jump to David.
Yeah, I think it was definitely tough to keep up with. We went from, I don't know what number employee you were, but maybe like 30 or 40?
I was like around 50 maybe.
50?
Yeah.
So 50 in the end of 2021
Yeah.
to, we got all the way up to like 330 by July of 2022. So there was a lot of hiring that went on in all parts of the organization. So we really had to double down on creating like an amazing interview process, because you can't just stick with the interview process you had when you were 50 people and expect that to scale out and people have a good experience. So we focused a lot inwardly on how to give candidates the best experience, while also being able to move quickly, while also being able to find these the key skills that we were looking for in all these people, how to test all of that and whatnot. So it's a constant like work in progress. We're still improving our interview process today, but we got it to a point where we were able to scale out that quickly. Thankfully, we hired a pretty big recruitment team during those times. We got up to 17 people on the recruitment team, so we had a lot of people working on these challenges. And then thankfully, a lot of the engineering team was open to doing a lot of interviews all the time. But yeah, it wasn't an easy process, but I think we did a pretty good job of it. And we're just continuing to work on it. It's still not easy, but it's a fun problem.
Yeah, real quick, what's the interview process like for aspiring developers that are looking to join a company like OpenSea?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, pretty comparable to other tech companies right now. We have like the first step is to talk with one of the recruiters on the team. The next step is like a coding, like technical interview, 45 minutes, pretty straightforward. And then there's a virtual on-site, which is like systems design, coding, and then like meeting with the hiring manager or a hiring manager from another team. Yeah, it's nothing, we don't throw any curveballs at people or anything like that. It's just like a genuine test of, your technical abilities, do you want to be at OpenSea, and kind of what your background is, who you are.
Are these like hard level leak code questions we're talking about, or?
I don't know, what do you think? Do you think they're hard?
I think they're hard enough, is how I would describe it, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks Ken. So David, let's jump into the engineering side.
Yeah.
How'd you guys manage scaling, and can you talk about some of the challenges you guys had?
Yeah. So if anyone was using like OpenSea about a year ago, I think it was very common on crypto Twitter to refer to us as Broken Sea. I think part of our challenge was just like literally like staying up as like a site, and it was pretty hard. So it was hard to manage because at the time we were just trying to focus on like engineering like fundamentals and ensuring that the site wouldn't go down. So we weren't able to like push out as many products and features as we wanted to, but we really invested a lot of time and energy into like ensuring like our infrastructure was like in place, solid, and that we could keep up with the growth. People were coming to the site not only to like, use the product, but people would also use like our API. We would get like DDoS, we would get spammed. And that resulted to a lot of the site having like performance issues. So a lot of this time last year was really focusing on things of that nature, and it took a while. Eventually, we got to a point where like we weren't having as many outages or as many issues, and then we could then really focus on like product development. And I think the second half of the year is when we were able to like start to really hit like velocity in terms of that aspect. To be honest, like the first half, I don't know if there's like as many like major things that we can point to, but we really started to hit like a certain threshold later in the year.
For sure. Let's talk about how OpenSea is currently innovating in the NFT space, right? You guys both mentioned there's tons of competitors in the space. There's marketplaces popping up all the time. I won't mention any right now because I'm an OpenSea fan, but I'd love to hear about like what OpenSea is doing to innovate. And two things that I know of, right, or at least one is Seaport. I think, very much gas optimized contracts, tons of assembly in there. Like I've tried to look at them, really hard to understand, but it provides a great experience, right, for the user, a gas optimized experience. You mentioned there's C-Drop as well, right? So maybe you can jump into that and then just talk broadly more about sort of the innovation you guys are currently doing.
So I think those are really two really good examples. I think on the protocol side, that's a lot of where the innovation comes from, because we're trying to create these like open platforms or products that other people can like build on top of, and we're just happen to be one of the consumers, and that's oftentimes like what we try to like strive for. I think another example that falls into a similar vein is a library that we shipped last year called Open Rarity in partnership with like IC Tools, Proof, and Curio Tools, which is like an open source library to be able to calculate like rarity for any given like collection. So these are the kinds of things that we do to try to give back to like the community and ecosystem to ensure that like the things that we're building aren't just necessarily like OpenSea specific. So Seaport, again, being like a really big release that we did last year, we're seeing more and more marketplaces that are building on top of Seaport, which is like really interesting to see and exciting to see. And even as of, I think it was a couple weeks ago, we started to do a small experiment where we're aggregating Seaport orders. So we're allowing people to be able to push their Seaport listings into OpenSea and see those like on the site. So it's not really just about like OpenSea, but it's like creating this like ecosystem that other people can like thrive on and build upon. C-Drop is like another one. We just found out, and realized that if you're not like one of the blue chip collections or a project that has like a lot of funding, sometimes it can be hard spinning up like your own landing page for people to like come and like mint on. And a lot of it is just like boilerplate. And after the minting aspect, like you don't really need that interface anymore. So one of the things that we wanted to do was like create C-Drop, which is like a registry where you can register your token contract. And eventually we are going to allow it so that like all these drops are shown up on OpenSea. So there's like a consistent landing page. You can go in, you can create it, you can share it with like your community, your followers. So you don't have to build all that stuff from scratch. It's just kind of like out of the box provided for you. And then the interesting thing about that will be, you know, providing like the discovery tools for people to go and like find new projects, and ensure also that like if you're minting something from OpenSea.io, that it is like safe and trusted, right? And it's not just some like scam website where you're going to connect your wallet and give like either the wrong approvals to get your wallet drained. So we want to really double down on like the safety aspect. So that's why we built things like that as well.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like, you know, back in 2020 when I was using OpenSea, like I would go out to these different sites or create like, you know, mint pages. And so it sounds like there was a lot of like point solutions all over the place.
Right.
A lot of these weren't necessarily trusted, right? There's
Right.
developers dropping these things. I think like ic.tools or rarity.tools is like one of the first ones that I remember going to. And now you can just have your rarity displayed on OpenSea, which is really nice. A big thing in this space is trust, right? Like you're going out to like these third-party tools, and that's, you know, where a lot of phishing attacks happen,
Right.
or a lot of like malicious signature contracts are. And the fact that OpenSea is kind of aggregating all of these tools into one place and providing sort of like that safe place to do these things is really cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear if you have anything to add, Ken, to sort of like the innovation.
Honestly, he covered it pretty well. Yeah, like you said, Seaport is just a work of art too.
Yeah.
Like internally, like the people that worked on that, just, you know, it's impressive. Any devs here should definitely try to dive into it and understand what's going on, because it's crazy.
Maybe we could just explain what Seaport is, so I'm not sure that everyone knows. Who knows what Seaport is? Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we can talk about what Seaport is, right? And how that was a transition from the previous marketplace contracts that lied.
Yeah. So Seaport is like our exchange contract that we use. So it's pretty much all the like underlying infrastructure that is able to manage and execute these various orders, whether it be like listings and offers. And it's the thing that's effectively facilitating the exchange of these NFTs between parties or wallets. Previously, we were using a protocol or smart contract called Wyvern. And it was like the initial protocol that OpenSea used back when it was like founded like years ago. And it got pretty outdated. And it was hard to build the features that we wanted to build on top of this protocol that was not really developed anymore. So we decided to build in-house a new smart contract that would suffice for our needs, but also, you know, open source and available to anyone else that wanted to build on top of it. So yeah, it's a smart contract that manages all the marketplace functionality on our site.
Awesome. Yeah. Like Ken said, it's a work of art. So for the developers out there looking into those contracts, there's a lot of posts out there of people like explaining like the Seaport contracts, and there's some good DevCon 6 talks on Seaport from Zero Age, who's one of like the lead engineers at Seaport.
Yeah.
So highly recommend it if you're Solidity engineer or just want to peep into the contracts. Really interesting things happening there, especially in the gas optimization space. I think we kind of covered like the innovation piece, but maybe just from like the excitement end of things, like what excites you the most about being at OpenSea, about the future of OpenSea, and maybe about the future of NFTs?
I mean, definitely the future of the space in general is pretty exciting. Like working at OpenSea, we're sort of on the forefront of, you know, understanding what may be in the future. For OpenSea in particular, I'm excited to see us like hopefully lead in our core competency eventually, pretty soon. But I'm really excited to see, I guess, where the space goes and how we kind of follow the space. Like what do people want? What are people going to be using? What are NFTs going to be used for in the future? You know, it's not going to be PFPs and collectibles forever. And how are we going to like help push all of those technologies forward, and how are we going to support that? What are we going to build around that? And it's just exciting because nobody knows, like literally nobody knows what's going to catch on or what's not going to catch on. So just to be a part of that and, you know, ride the wave and see what happens.
Everything that Ken said, and to add on a little bit, I think the most exciting thing about being in the space and being at OpenSea is that like we just don't really know what's going to happen because it is so early, and that part makes it like pretty exciting. a lot of people have guesses on like what use cases or what utilities will come out of NFTs outside of like PFPs, art, collectibles. Some people think like ticketing is like going to be a big thing, or like gaming and in-game like items is going to be a big thing, or like doubling down on digital collectibles. But the fact that the space is so open and so new, I think that adds to a lot of the excitement, right? Because we just like see how use cases evolve, see how people are using these technologies, and we can slowly start to see like Web2 brands and mainstream brands like Nike and Adidas. They're starting to like get into the space and try to like figure out what works with their customer base, right? And I think that really adds to like the excitement of being in such a greenfield area.
Yeah, for sure. I had a whole section here on NFTs, but we really kind of covered like what I wanted to talk about. But maybe we can just expand, because I think a lot of people here are really interested in NFTs. They're either traders or they're launching their own collections. I mean, what kind of advice could you give to the audience for those that are looking to potentially innovate in the NFT space from both ends, right? From the creator side or potentially from the engineering side? UC drop in Seaport would be one.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I would say is a little bit more general, but like kind of going back to the comment I said before on like how this space is so new, is that like there's no such thing as like stupid ideas, and to just try anything and everything and see what sticks. I think some of the coolest projects out there end up being people that are like giving a new novel idea a shot and seeing kind of like how that lands with folks, right? I think there's a lot of different ways to like go about launching a project, different utilities, different mechanisms, and I think those are the interesting things to try out, to do things that have not yet been done before, and if it doesn't really stick, I think that's okay. I think that's part of the fun of being in the space and trying new things out.
Yeah, I just think the whole concept of like digital ownership is such a cool thing, and what problems can we solve in the real world today using digital ownership instead of physical ownership, whether it's in the real estate industry or cars or whatever it may be. Just like innovating on those types of things and building things to bring everybody into this space. Like when you build something like in real estate, for example, if you truly innovate in that and make it easy to use, like everybody is involved in real estate. So just building these things that everybody understands and is using, and make it really easy to use for the general everyday person, not for us degens here or developers here. Yeah, that's my advice for people that are building and for creators in the space.
Yeah, you mentioned digital ownership. So I kind of want to maybe ask you about soulbound tokens and what your thoughts are on soulbound tokens, and if you see that as sort of becoming more and more popular as a way to have like an on-chain credential or prove that you have some sort of skill or something in off-chain.
Yeah, I hope it really picks up. I love that technology because, I mean, as a recruiter, like going on LinkedIn or seeing a resume, you can never tell if what the person puts there is truth or not. If you have a soulbound token that's given to you by, the university or by your past employer or whoever, it's, you can't transfer it. It's attached to you. It proves that, you are this person, or you went to this university, or you have this skill, or you worked here. So from a recruiter's standpoint, like I really hope this picks up, and there's many more use cases, but that's the one most directly related to me.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, David? What do you think of soulbound tokens?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting concept. I think it ties a lot back into the fact that if you think your wallet is going to be partially like your identity, then it like makes a lot of sense, right? Like you have your wallet, you have the different collectibles that you own, but also you have all these like soulbound tokens that do represent different aspects. Right now, that's a little bit hard because I think wallets tend to be a little bit like pseudo-anonymous or non in a lot of cases. But I can definitely see us trending in a direction where it does end up being more of like your Web3 or online identity. Everything from like ENS domains, people starting to like have their online avatar or digital like PFP that's like a tie to their digital online persona. In that kind of world, I think soulbound tokens make a lot of sense, and there's a lot of different use cases that can come out of it.
Yeah, totally. Are there any other NFT use cases that really excite you? Like maybe like NFT lending or NFTI, I think it's like a liquidity pool for NFTs.
For me personally, I think there's like a few things. I was a gamer when I was like younger, played a lot of computer games, ones that, you know, you have like different rarities of items that you find online. You're kind of like farming and like grinding it out to like get all these different kind of like items. And when I first learned about NFTs, I was like, wow, well, this makes a lot of sense if you ever wanted to have items that were composable across different games, right? Like, why not have like a sword or whatever, a shield that you could take across games instead of like building a game and then like inventory attached to that? Why not have it be the other way around when you have certain items, like if you can take your Fortnite skin to any game out there, right? I think that's like really cool. I think it'll take a little bit because like games right now and how studios are set up, it's probably a lot of friction to do that, but I always thought that that would be like a really interesting use case that one I would be personally pretty excited about.
Yeah, that was definitely the use case that I most related to, like coming into NFTs too, and that helped me understand it the most. But also, we talk a lot about like ticketing in this world. I think ticketing is another one that has a lot of friction. Like you're going up against like Ticketmaster and all of these agencies and record labels and everything. Like, how are you going to overcome those to, you know, eventually move ticketing to NFTs, hopefully. But I think like the use case just makes a lot of sense to give the creators, the musicians, the artists, like all of, you know, the royalties and everything that they deserve for their work. But at the end of the day, it's another thing that it's going to take a while. There's a lot of, you know, speed bumps along the way to get to that point. But I think, once again, it just takes the majority of the people to understand what we have here and what can be built using this kind of technology to really push the envelope and kind of push everybody towards actually doing something like that.
Yeah, definitely. The last question I have before I give it up to the audience to answer a few questions is, does OpenSea plan to support Bitcoin ordinals?
I'm just going to say no comment.
No idea.
Just a fun question. Cool. You guys, let's give it up for Ken and David for coming out tonight. Are you guys open for a few questions?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm down.
Who has questions?
Questions?
During your part about engineering and the interviews, you guys spoke a little bit about what kind of the interview process was, mainly speaking about kind of the data structure algo part and the system design. And I hear that a lot from like, obviously like tier 1 companies, but nobody really kind of goes into depth of what's expected in those questions. So anyway, maybe you specifically, David, could talk about like what is expected from developers and these answers, and what is a good way to pass that round of the interview?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I think part of it is also just kind of like the experience in that interview. I mean, part of it is sure, like coming up with like a good, I don't want to even say correct answer because there's always like a lot of different answers, but like a good answer, but like what's the thought process like behind that, right? Like, are you coming up with different ways to like solve the problem, different options, thinking about the trade-offs, and ultimately it's meant to be like a collaborative effort as well. So the interviewer would normally kind of either give like prompts or throw out ideas, and it's like taking that and seeing if like, you know, are you able to like work with it, or are you just going to be like, oh no, I'm just going to think about my own thing and that's going to be like the way it is. So I think there's been oftentimes, I don't say oftentimes, but there are cases where people are really just stuck in their one like idea and aren't open to even like receiving feedback, and that tends to be like a poor signal for us, because we do want people to come in and be collaborative, open to new ideas, and these are going to be some of the coworkers that you're working with, right? So I think it's how you interact with the interviewer. I think the other part just on top of that is just, yeah, general like problem solving skills, right? So it's not so much necessarily about that like you're able to like get the right answer, but how do you go about getting there and the process in that. For like the coding ones, I do think that, you know, there's two parts. There's the brainstorming and coming up with like the idea that you want to implement. And then the second part is like how proficient are you in order to take that idea and turn it into code? Because ultimately on a day-to-day basis, that's what engineers are doing. They're taking some idea and implementing it and turning it into code. So it's like, how fluid are you in that? There are cases where, you know, if you're a front-end engineer and the interview is in, let's say, like some front-end like question, it's pretty easy to see if like someone's not actually proficient in that and they're not able to like execute on implementation. So that ends up usually being like a poor signal for us.
Can either of you guys, probably more David, talk a little bit about the experimentation, how you guys define a successful experiment? Is it the traditional A/B testing and multivariate testing? If you can speak to that, please.
Yeah. So honestly, we probably don't do too much like traditional like A/B testing to see kind of like what works and what doesn't. The reason being is because we tend to just like optimize for the best like user experience at the moment. And a lot of the features and things that we're shipping, I think most people would say that it's like a net positive experience and or feature that like is not too controversial. Just for example, I think at the end of last year, we launched like a new analytics kind of like panel within our collection page. So you can go in there, you see a whole bunch of new like data, charts, graphs that we didn't necessarily have before. And something for like that, we don't necessarily like A/B test, right? Because from our perspective, it's like this is net new information. It's only going to be beneficial to our user base. So we'll do slow rollouts just to ensure that like, you know, it's not buggy, it's performant, things of that nature. But ultimately, if we want to like build it, we end up just like shipping it. There's rarely ever a point where we like ship something, we A/B test, and then determine like, oh, this isn't worth it. If that makes sense. And I think a lot of the things that we're building out now, in certain areas, they end up being like table stake features that other marketplaces also might already have as well.
Hello. Oh, I guess we has. How's it going, guys? Thanks for coming out. This is like awesome to hear something like from you guys from OpenSea. This is like really big company. I think it's awesome for some of the new people to the space, especially seeing these like awesome companies that are actually taking traction in the real world. I think it's a lot of like empowerment for the people that are trying to get into the space. I think one of the big kind of questions I have, especially kind of getting into like kind of development, kind of like starting really getting into the weeds of it, is what is your attitude towards like junior developers? And I would assume that most of the hiring that goes on is probably directed towards more senior developers because again, fast paced, you got to have people that like know how to like transition and be like on their toes. And if you guys are kind of like not really focused on like junior development, what would you recommend towards those people that are in that space?
You want me to take this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we, like you said, we're definitely focused on hiring senior developers right now because of where we're at currently. But for junior developers, I think, I mean, even like me coming into OpenSea as a recruiter, I know I'm not a developer, but just like working with Devin, you know, when there are 8 people talking to him, just like kind of being in his ear and like giving him recruitment advice or working on whatever he needed to work on, and then eventually getting into OpenSea because of that. That's the same advice I would give to a developer is to, you know, work with something while it's smaller, a junior developer, like contribute where you can and like meet a lot of people and work on things that just need, you know, people to develop, whether it's simple things or do testing or whatever it is. Just work with smart people that will help up-level you, and eventually you'll obviously get to the point where you can apply for a senior developer role. For OpenSea specifically, you know, always, I mean, like, even just reaching out to me, like, I know Ryan reached out to me on LinkedIn, just like reach out to me and have a conversation with me, and we can keep in touch, you know, whether it's, you know, 6 months or 8 months, whenever we do start hiring more entry-level junior developers, I'll remember you and you can reach out to me again, and like you're a familiar face, and of course I'll talk to you again. So it's just, you know, keeping that network and not being afraid to reach out cold to people and just explain like who you are, what you want to do, kind of the impact you want to make, what you've done, and just keep contact with that person, whether it's a recruiter or maybe an engineering manager. Just you know, maintain those connections while you work your way up the ladder.
You guys, that's an amazing resource, right? Like, reach out to Ken if you guys have questions. I don't want to overload you, but this is a huge value add, right? If you guys have questions about even what it's like, right, working or just to keep in touch when they do hire for junior developers, keep Ken in mind.
Hi guys,
Attention here for mics.
great panel. I'm your average consumer, meaning I'm a user of your platform, and I'd like to know what your strategy is for getting what you have to offer more mainstream, so that the average consumer knows what your products are and what to do with them.
Yeah. So I think there's two main things that we're doing currently to be able to help with that. I think one is what I mentioned about our drops product or being able to like mint on the platform. And I say that because we're also working with a lot of like Web 2 brands. So they have an existing user base and customer base that they can like tap into. So if there's a lot of familiarity with like these brands, I think that will bring new people to the space. So it's like even getting people interested in NFTs. If they just heard about it, they're like, oh no, it's crypto, like what is that? But if they find out their favorite brand is doing like a new drop, oh, that's gonna like pique their interest, right? And then they'll start to like check it out. So having these partnerships with like Web 2 brands, existing brands out there is like one part of our strategy. I think the other part, which is a little bit more challenging, but we're trying to invest like time into it, is like how can we smoothen out like the onboarding process, right? I think right now, if you were to start from scratch, to buy an NFT, you have to go know where to have like a fiat on-ramp. You have to go get crypto. You have to transfer it to a wallet. Maybe you have to go install a browser extension. You got to go to OpenSea. You got to do all these like go through all these like hoops, which most people they're gonna like drop out at some point. So we're building things to be able to like lighten the friction. So one example being we released a new feature last year to be able to like purchase NFTs with like credit cards and have like a fiat purchasing method. That's one example. Other things that we're considering is like, are there custodial wallet options that we can have out there, which maybe most people would not do, but for like an average consumer, they care maybe less about that. It just like lightens the friction. So there's like product improvements and things that we want to focus our time into to be able to on ramp like the next wave of consumers.
Hi there, Ken. You mentioned when the question arose, what do you look for in developers?
Yeah.
You first said you might look into their GitHub profile and what open source projects they've contributed to. You recommended that people do that. So in that regard, David, you guys are pretty full stack. You do front end, you've got some back end infrastructure, you've got the actual protocol. What on your stack is open source? And if anything that isn't, what's the philosophy around why that is not open source?
Good question. Most of the things are open source, not exclusively, but it's mostly like on the protocol side. So anything that's like on chain. The reason being is because we want people to be able to like build on top of it, and it ends up being most of it is public anyway because it is on chain. So that's a big part that we give back to the community. In terms of anything outside of that, that's a little bit maybe like Web 2 centric. I think we just haven't invested as much time as a priority to like release some of the things that we're building. That's a little bit more like traditional software outside. And honestly, at the point of where our company's at, a lot of the things that we're using are either like off the shelf or provided by like our cloud provider. So we're not building as much infrastructure from scratch and leveraging a lot of like existing solutions. So a lot of the like innovation ends up being more so on like the protocol side.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just and in case I didn't get to say it up, Chad, this is my first event. I think you've done a phenomenal job with the questions you've asked, man. Just yeah, some of the questions I would have asked you already asked, so I really appreciate the good job you did there. So David, Ken, so I'm going to be starting a new job on Monday with one of these solution providers that you're talking about that might actually you might actually have like an existing business relationship with. So just kind of any just really general guidance that you would give for somebody starting with a Web3 company, a startup that's, like I said, Web3 startup. I can kind of see that there's a lot of younger people in it. I'm not a Mac user either. So yeah, what type of guidance would you give generally?
So guidance for teams creating new Web3 products?
Or just for somebody starting brand new in Web3 in a startup?
I think the biggest thing I could probably say is, depending on like the previous experience and knowledge, is like just kind of like dive into the space and like try things out. Like use, go buy like your first NFT or create like a project and really get invested into the space. I think the best way to like learn around this kind of like new concept is just like learn by doing. You can like read and like listen to like YouTube videos, podcasts, and whatnot. But I always thought that the best way to learn is just being hands-on. So the thing I would generally suggest is always being just go build something and try new things out, or even just play around with these like different products and offerings.
And I'd also add, one of the best parts about working at a Web3 company is being around people that are also interested in the space, so you can always have good conversations with them. So just like keeping up to date with what's happening in the space, because then you can just keep diving deep on all those cool things that are happening and learn more and more about them. I guess listening to podcasts every morning, that's what I do. And then being able to ask the engineering team or Zero Age or somebody what the heck does this mean? Can you explain it to me? And just keeping up with all the trends that are happening.
And you'll have maybe a Slack channel that you use internally, or even share it with vendors or business partners?
Yeah, we use Slack, yeah.
I'll add one thing is follow the right people on Twitter too. I've learned more on Twitter than anywhere else. And so just some of the engineers, even at OpenSea, you can follow them on Twitter. They'll post things, they'll post interesting things. Dive into some of that, right? If they post blogs from Twitter, you can go into those as well. Curate your Twitter feed to optimize your learning strategy. I told David we'd end at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
So we'll take one more question, and then after that, we'll...
Hi. Thank you both so much. This has been an awesome panel. I really appreciate you guys being here. We've talked a little bit about, from the consumer perspective, being a collector, coming onto OpenSea, maybe they're onboarding into Web3. One of their favorite brands has just dropped an NFT. This is their starting point into Web3. I'd love to ask a question more from the artist perspective. So let's paint a picture, an artist has been in the Web3 space for a few years. Let's say they've used some competitor marketplaces. They've built a brand. They have their listings there, but they are interested in OpenSea. I'm just curious to see or hear about how OpenSea is being competitive in the space from an artist perspective.
I think that's something that we're starting to focus a lot more of our time and energy on, which is creating creator tools. Because right now, historically, we've been focused on a secondary marketplace. That's what OpenSea ultimately is, and where a lot of our business and transactions come from. But I don't think we've invested as much into the creator and artist kind of user base, and we're starting to do that. We're releasing tools that, again, be able to have any creator come on our platform and create a new NFT project. We want to do it so that it's a completely no-code tool. You don't have to do anything on-chain yourself, and we completely abstract that away. It's challenging, it'll take a while, but that's ultimately the goal that we want to achieve. And then even outside of just being able to launch a project on OpenSea, I think the next step beyond that is how do you maybe even allow creators to manage the community, right? Do you give them a way to be able to reach out to the people that have bought or collected from their projects, and maybe give them additional benefits, or maybe adding them on an allow list on a future drop. So there's a lot of things that we can do to help creators manage both their projects and the community that backs their different collections. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Everyone, let's give it up for David and Ken.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for having us.
Actually, one last thing. Speaking on artists, we're going to do a raffle. It'll come out through an email because we didn't have time to gather everyone's email addresses. But Madison, who's an NFT artist as well, who has her collection, will be raffling off one NFT. So look out for that. Super exciting.
Excuse me, Chase. One more announcement. Edge is also hiring. So speaking of startups, working in a startup, we're hiring. We have one open position. So if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me. Other than that, Chad mentioned it. We host events here all the time. I know quite a few are familiar. If you go to our website, edge.app, there's an events tab, and you can see all the events that we post there. ETH events, Zcash events, Chainlink events. So just check out edge.app/events. All right.
Powered by Edge.
Powered by Edge.